This is Boxing Beats and Rhymes again. I want to shout out European Boxing News. He made an interesting video. He attempted to restructure boxing into a league table system. And as good as his intentions are, I don't think it needs to go there. It doesn't need to go there. You don't need to have a fighter from this country fighting one home leg and then an away leg. That doesn't need to happen. What needs to happen is a restructuring of the belts. Too much belts. Interim belts, super champions, junior champions. No, too much. That means there needs to be a culling of the belts, a major culling, a revolutionary culling of the belts is what is needed. And the proliferation of belts has been a problem since the 80s. Since the 80s, the purists like myself complained about too many belts then, but what we didn't realize is we had it good. Early 80s, all you had was WBC, WBA. I remember Larry Holmes, I think, being one of the first men to hold the IBF belt. And because he was an outstanding champion, he gave them the legitimacy they seeked. And it must have been about the late 80s when the WBO started their reign of terror. Michael Mora was one of their early champions. I think some dude, I remember Kamel Bou Ali, an Algerian French fighter. I think he held a WBO belt at lightweight, and I remember him thinking to myself, no, this is too much. This is too much. But somehow the WBO managed to creep into the infrastructure and became a fairly respected organization, and still are today. In saying that, I think they can go. They can go. I think the IBF can go too. And as for European Boxing News saying the IBO is a legitimate belt, I think Vitaly Klitschko had one of their belts. I don't care. You gotta go. Too many belts. You know what I mean? For sure. And in the last dialogue I had with European Boxing News, the vibe I get from him is that he feels American fighters have way too much home advantage. And here's why I disagree with that. I disagree with it from the unwritten rules in boxing, where they say the challenger has to rip the title away from the champion to win. Now, to me, that doesn't just mean the fighting in the ring. That means the stories that I'll be able to tell my grandkids about Lloyd Honeyghan. Yeah, Lloyd traveled all the way from Bermondsey, London, and he went across the pond and he tackled the pound for pound #1 fighter in the world who looked unbeatable at the time. His name was Don Curry, and Honeyghan ripped his titles away from him and became the undisputed welterweight champion. Now that's a story. That's a story. Nigel Benn knocking out Iran Barkley in America. That's a story. Boxing's built on this. Stories like John H. Stracey, even though that's a little before my time, he came from London. He traveled to Mexico and beat Jose Napoles, a really good welterweight champion, a long-term champion. He knocked him out and took his belt. He was a rank outsider. These are the stories boxing is based on and built on, you know? You know, I see it like, let's take Britain, for instance. It would have to develop a multitude of world champions and overtake America and the Latin countries. And for the lighter weights, the Asian countries. And then you could have that claim to say, yeah, you could come over here and fight. Why should I go over there? Shit is popping here. And until another country or nation knocks America off, That's how it should be. Because I don't know about you, I'm just going on my experience coming up, following boxing. Marvin Hagler, Larry Holmes, Mike Tyson, Michael Spinks, Sugar Ray Leonard, Ray Mancini. You know, I could go on for days. Thomas Hearns, you know. It was always happening in America. Atlantic City, Madison Square Garden. Man, I used to watch World of Sport religiously because sometimes they wouldn't even post it up in the paper that the fights were coming up. But I just used to watch it religiously just so I'll catch one of the star bouts from there, you know what I mean? Simple as that. And the truth is, England have lost most of its world champions this year. Froch ain't a champion no more. David Hay lost his belt. Who else? Look, I'm sure someone else. Yeah, Amir Khan, he lost his belt. There's nothing popping over it. They don't even show boxing on terrestrial TV out here no more. You got Box Nation, you got Sky Sports. But I remember when I was a youth, I used to see Ali on ITV. I used to see Sugar Ray Leonard. I used to see all them cats. Holmes, Tyson. Used to see all their fights. That don't happen no more. They've got no interest in it because it's supply and demand. They're just dealing with ratings. And neither Frank Warren or Barry Hearn can make boxing viable for terrestrial television anymore. And to take my argument one step further, in the early 90s, in the late 80s, you had Chris Eubank, Nigel Benn, and Michael Watson. They had a trilogy between them, and it was mostly the WBO belt up for the grabs when they fought. And they were getting massive television numbers. They was making money, they was household names. They didn't need to go to America. So in between fighting each other in the trilogy, they'd maybe import someone like Lindell Holmes, who Eubanks would defend against, or that guy Jarvis, who he KO'd, or Ronnie Essett. You know what I mean? Not great fighters, decent fighters, but just to pad out time until Ben would fight Eubank, or Eubank would fight Watson, or Watson would fight Ben, or, you know. And that's what they was doing. In all truth, they should have probably been going over there to fight Roy Jones and James Toney and Hopkins. But with a proliferation of belts, you don't need to do that. You don't need to push yourself. So it becomes more a business model than a sporting endeavor. You know what I'm saying? It's like US hip-hop back in the day. You'd have crews outside of New York, because most of the New York rappers were signed to major labels. But the West Coast, the South, or wherever, the Midwest, a lot of them crews would just come out the trunk with their tapes and their vinyl, and if they sell 30,000, 50,000, they don't have to go gold, because they ain't paying no middleman. They ain't paying no sanctioning fee. They ain't in good, because their hood is supporting them. And by this stage, they've mastered their studio techniques, their video techniques, and you know what I mean, they're not getting radio play from no major stations or anything, and they're still selling a truckload of records. So the only thing a label could offer them, or why they would sign to a label, is not for a record. You don't, when you're in that position, you don't go for a record deal. You just sign a distribution deal. That's all you do. And maybe get a better publicist, and that's all you do. You don't allow them to take chunks out of your business when you can do all that yourself. It's pointless, you know? You want to keep your masters. You want to keep hold of your business. You know, that's what you need to, that's what you pass down to your children, is shit like that. Back to the boxing anyway. It's a similar situation today with the Klitschko's. People say, oh, but why should they come out of Germany? Why should they come out of Germany? It doesn't make any sense. The TV companies out there are giving them a nice little piece of change. They sell out all the arenas they fight in, even though their crowds are so subdued and strange. Like, They're watching golf or something. They don't cheer. There's no atmosphere. But that's cool. Who cares? So what? That's just my interpretation. They're selling out the arena all the time. You know what I mean? And they're happy with that. So why fix it if it ain't broken? I mean, for instance, if you're working your job, I don't know what you're doing. If you're a mechanic, you're a builder, and your boss says, yo, I can pay you the same money or even more money, but you can cut your hours down from 40 to 20 a week. What are you gonna say? 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 No, it's the principle. I want to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week for fucking shit. No. And that's why Manny's smart backing out of the fight with Floyd. He's smart. And when I say that, I'm not saying that he's a noble warrior to do that. But what I am saying is, regardless if he is backing out of fights or he's getting gifted decisions he shouldn't be getting, or he's making his opponents sweat out half their body weight so they're coming in the ring with their head looking massive and their body looks emaciated, it doesn't matter. He's got the whole of Philippines behind him. He's probably going to be president of the country. He's got fans worldwide everywhere. And yes, he can't fight off the back foot. He's got obvious flaws. A lot of his combinations are telegraphed. But his PR game is fucking brilliant. He's got fans everywhere. Fans who know shit about boxing, but are pushing him up to be the pound for pound best. And he's not. And a lot of these television networks are just on his dick, saying he's all that. Why extend yourself? Why not ignore the undefeated guy? A guy who's held titles at 6 weights. You know what I mean? The best technician in the game. And you know I'm talking about Money Mayweather. Why not? And, you know what I mean? You know I love my black people still. But sometimes we're so simple-minded about certain things. It's ridiculous. Like the Boxing Wasp video about Malcolm X. It brought a lot of enlightenment to me. Because we're probably the only race of people who expect our leaders to be squeaky clean. And no one else is like that. Everyone got all this shit from pillaging, raping, the basic exploitation. But we sort of expect the world to judge Floyd on his ring brilliance and his accomplishments alone. And it's really short-sighted because it's a material world. People spend millions on PR, millions on public relations. I mean, Floyd's blinging nice. How much is he spending on PR? How much is he spending on that? Not enough. And that's why he's not getting the fight with Manny. And if the situation was reversed and it was Manny, Floyd would have to fight. If it was Oscar De La Hoya, perhaps Sugar Ray Leonard, or I don't know, what other fighters they really like. I don't know. All I know, Floyd, you got dreadful PR, brother. Your PR speaks as much as your product in this world, in this fucked up world. And one of the greatest things about growing up is you become to appreciate your individualism more than ever. I don't have to fuck with the peer pressure of having to spend 150 pounds on a pair of sneakers no more. I buy what I like. If I see a pair of sneakers and they're no brand and I like the design and they look good, I'll buy it. And that goes for any other piece of clothing, you know? Like McDonald's can advertise all they like. And they can get a massive percentage of people buying their food. Their food is still garbage. It's bad for you. It tastes crap. It's still garbage. And you're always better off using fresh produce and cooking from fresh. Always. But even if you were to start a restaurant and you were going to say, do healthy meals that tasted good and was really good for you, you still have to look about marketing. You still have to look about presentation because people are stupid. They'll eat shit if you package it right. But you see, it's going to be difficult to go back down to 2 belts because someone like Bob Arum doesn't want to see that happen. Doesn't want to see it happen. You know? People with the interest of greed more than the sport. Then he's got the nerve to cuss out MMA or UFC for their model. He's got the nerve. He should keep his mouth shut. He needs to apologize to the MMA fans. MMA is not a real sport. Shut your old ass up, boy. I mean, ridiculous, you know? And see, if the belts were marginalized, Pacquiao, Bob Arum won't be able to get away with this shit. I mean, dudes like Canelo and dudes like Chavez are apprentice champions. I mean, you don't get a belt and still be acting like a contender. That doesn't sound right to me. Either develop your craft, you're ready to take on a title challenge and defend against all comers, but you can't train on the job. It doesn't work like that. And the proliferation of belts have helped that to happen. That's why Tyson had to unify the belts, because it was getting ridiculous. Before Tyson came, and in between where Larry Holmes was sort of tailing off, 1 minute you'd have Tim Witherspoon got the belt, then Greg Page has got it, then Tony Tubbs has got it, then Pinklon Thomas has it, then Trevor Burbeck, then Court Sears got it, Michael Dokes. It was getting ridiculous. Tyson unified all the belts. As soon as Douglas got it, he started to go back into all that bullshit again. You know? So, I know a lot of people like to criticize Mike, but he was the sole champion of his division. Simple as that. Old school style. Jack Johnson style, Joe Louis style, Muhammad Ali style. You know what I mean? That's why much props to Andre Ward, because you can define that he is the man at super middle. Can't contest that. Lucien Boutte can't contest that. He wasn't in the tournament. You know, the tournament had all the numbers in there. You know what I mean? Whether you think that they weren't great fighters or not, he had all the people who were supposed to be in there. Boutte is irrelevant until he fights Ward and proves Ward not to be the top man at super middle. And I don't see how people have Martinez ahead of Ward in the pound-for-pound rankings. That don't work for me. Andre's right up there now in the 203. You know? Probably money. Ward. I can't have Pacquiao up there now after the Marcus decision. I'm sorry. He's still in there, but not in the premier spots. So Mayweather, Ward, Klitschko's, Donaire I haven't thought it through, so I'm not going to say any more until I revise that list. But that's where I'd run. I'd have Manny about 5th or 6th behind Marquez, because I think Marquez won the fight. You know what I mean? I'm going to wrap this one up and just say, this is the year that boxing or boxers must not be able to play politics with belts, you know? Or be saying you're a world champ when you're a trainee champ, or just cashing in on the belt, ducking hard fights, and knowing you can get away with it because there's several belts out there, so you can jump here and maneuver here and whatever. That's not right. And it's not that I think European Boxing News' idea is bad. It's not. I think it's quite a good idea, considering the fuckeries that's going on. It's quite a good idea, but traditionally, that's not what boxing is about. We need to just reduce these belts and get back on track. And I feel this year, if the best isn't fighting the best because of the belt situation, this could well be the year that boxing ends up eating itself. And for me, that would be a disaster. So with that, I'm going to say peace, and we out.